What's up, guys? Welcome back to the 40K Cafe, and today we're going to be talking about the different main Splinter Cell factions of the Eldari. The Eldari are primarily split into 5 major factions. These factions consist of the Craftworld Eldar, the Drukhari, the Exodites, the Harlequins, and the Inari. Starting off with the Craftworld Eldari, these Eldar live on a vast and massive planetoid-like ship, which will be known as the Craftworld. The Eldar that would usually tend to populate these craft worlds are the Asuryani. I've talked about them previously in one of my older videos. Each of these craft worlds are built out of a resource called Wraithbone, and each craft world is unique with its own and distinctive culture, as well as diverse environment. The Wraithbone also operates as its own self-replenishing resource and power system for the craft world itself. More specifically, the Wraithbone harnesses psychic powers and auras, which operate within the system to fully power the whole entire thing. This system would be called the Grid. The Asuryani, though, would call this grid the Infinity Circuit, which would operate based off of the Spirit Stones that reside within it. The Craftworld Eldar use these Spirit Stones to prevent their souls from being consumed by Slaanesh when they fall in combat. So whenever a Craftworld Eldar would fall, their life source and living entity would be transferred into this soul stone and then placed in an infinity circuit where their energy and psychic aura can be used to power a craft world or other Wraithbone materials. This is how the Craftworld Eldar have come to become immortal without needing any essences of the warp, but if one of these soul stones were to be destroyed, then Slaanesh gets to gobble them up. Next up, we're going to have the Drukhari, who use different means to get their immortality. So the Craftworld Eldar use the craft worlds to escape Slaanesh and all of that debauchery, but the Drukhari, on the other hand, didn't want to forego their ways. So instead, what did they do? They made a pocket dimension where they can still continue their drugs, sex, and rock and roll. I want to say it's important to note that just because they're in a pocket dimension does not make them immune to Slaanesh's influence or consumption. Slaanesh can still slowly sap their life essence from the Drukhari's bodies and souls. For you see, unlike the Craftworld Eldar, the Drukhari don't use spirit souls. So they accomplish their immortality by hurting others and causing pain and all the other debauchery stuff that they love on other individuals. So by causing more pain and debauchery on others, this will in turn create kind of like a jammer for Slaanesh, and Slaanesh will end up consuming all of that psychic energy and influence from the people that they are influencing versus the Drukharis. And causing pain and excess and hedonism on others also is the life essence of the Drukharis. One, in turn, was actually trapped on an abandoned vessel, and he managed to survive not by eating, but by causing pain on any of the rats or other rodents that he would find on the vessel. Without causing this pain, they would slowly wither away and die. So a lot of times when you hear about the Eldar becoming space pirates or pillaging different lands and worlds, taking people, usually you'll see that it's the Drukhari looking for more slaves and or victims to prey upon. Next up on the list, we have the Exodites. These Eldar, in my opinion, are one of the coolest, but they get sidelined a lot, seeing as they chose to forgo a lot of their technological advances as well as other ways of living when foreseeing the oncoming cataclysm that would befall their people. This group would go on to exile themselves and end up going to live a more primitive lifestyle. But even though they gave up a lot of technological advances that the Eldar use, they still actually use something similar to Spirit Stones to protect their souls whenever they pass. The big important difference to note, though, is that the Craftworld Eldar who use the Infinity Circuit for their soul stones, the Exodites use what is called the World Spirit. So in the process of their exile and giving up a lot of their technological advances, as well as the ways that their people were falling into, they would actually move around and use a lot of animals for transportations. So these are the Eldar that you usually see riding dinosaurs. Now, I'm not forgetting about the other 2 factions, the Harlequins and the Inari, but I kind of just realized how long this video is going to be, so stay tuned for part 2.